Welcome to episode 49 of the Sports Geek podcast. On this week's podcast, I check in with Christine Stoffel on the Progress for Seat conference in Miami and have a chat with Ryan Jordan from Churchill Downs about connecting fans at the Kentucky Derby.
Welcome to the Sports Geek podcast, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now, here's your host, who remembers using network news to get NBA scores, Sean Callanan.
Thanks, DJ Joel. My name is Sean Callanan from Sports Geek, and I do remember those days back in university using network news to get the latest in sports news, way before things like Facebook and Twitter were around. It was the original social network. This week, it's very seat-focused as we're starting to ramp up for the Seat conference in Miami. Don't forget, you go to sportsgeekhq.com/seat2014. It'll direct you to the Seat site. This week, I gave Christine Stoffel, the founder of Seat, a call just to check in, see how things were tracking for the conference. The agenda's locked in, the sponsors locked in, the entertainment starting to get locked in. Looking forward to it. Should be a great couple of days in Miami. And then part of our Seat sponsor series, I catch up with Ryan Jordan from Churchill Downs, home of the Kentucky Derby. And we talk a little bit about their DAS rollout with mobility and what that opened up for the fans at Kentucky Derby and why they went through it. So that's part of our Seat sponsor series later in the podcast. But first, here is my chat with Christine Stoffel from Seat. Not long now till Seat 2014, July 20th to the 22nd, Sunday through to Tuesday. How's things going with all things Seat?
You know what, Sean? This is absolutely going to be the biggest conference that we've ever had to date. And we've got so many exciting things going on, from a lot of really cool technology that is being brought into the conference. We're going to be using a lot of technology, as well as we've got amazing sponsors. Our exhibit hall is now completely filled as of today. So we've got 57 exhibit booths in our hall and in fact, what's really fun is we are doing an exhibit booth competition with our sponsors. And so we're doing some pretty significant awards and compensation. So if someone, if anyone wants to kind of compete in this, it's really exciting. We're doing a lot of great things. So have a lot of stuff going on.
Well, that's terrific. I mean, I've had a fair few people come to me and comment on the agenda. It just seems to be getting, and you're the one that's managing it and, working with the digital track. It's been so hard to fit everything in and fitting everything, every slot in, but it's absolutely action-packed. You've got good to see a little bit more international flavour with a few more international guests coming along, with guys like Oscar Ugaz, who's been on the podcast before, and I'm glad that Richard Clark from Arsenal's been able to squeeze Seat into his schedule before Arsenal head up to New York to play the Red Bulls. But it'll be great to have, I guess, that mix of people across CRM, digital, and not forgetting the original geeks, the CEOs that where Seat started. Just having those three tracks, it seems to be really meshing really well.
It is, in talking about the international, we now have 21 countries represented at Seat this year. So we're really excited about that. It's truly becoming an international, community of the sports entertainment world, as well as, of course, all of the CIOs and the CRM professionals and digital marketing professionals from the United States and Canada. The tracks, I'm telling you what, I kudos to our steering committee, Sean, is every single one of them have really come to the table. They've helped put together an amazing program in all three of these tracks with deep conversations. And, I have to tell you that one of the big things that came out of last year in Kansas City, when we started having the conference calls with the steering committee, they said, Christine, we don't want to talk high level. Seat is where we're going to start really getting into deep discussions, deep conversations, and having these real world conversations and case studies being brought to life, and really knowledge sharing and thought leadership sharing. And this year is absolutely, if you look at the agenda, it's exactly where we're going. We're really, really excited about it.
And we really did. We sort of flipped, I guess, the agenda a little bit on its head. Last year in Kansas City, we had the closed door sessions, which some of the best conversations come out of. Last year we had them in the morning, and I remember hobbling to mine on one of the first mornings when I had the moon boot and the crutches on, and hosted with Dwayne Hankins from the Trailblazers. And it was a great discussion early in the morning. But as you do put on a terrific networking event, we found that the attendance in the following days was a little bit tough. But we've moved those to the afternoon, and they're sort of the prequel to the networking events. So we're going to have them on Sunday night, Monday night, and Tuesday night before the events. I think that's going to be a really great way to stimulate the conversation. People will be coming out of the sessions and just being able to say, I really want to dive in on something that was discussed in either one of the keynotes or a panel discussion, and really get that conversation moving. And terrifically, you've done a terrific job with the sponsors. We'll be able to ply the attendees with some alcohol, which always helps in getting the conversation going. Do you think? I mean, I think Jim Darrow was talking about it last year. That's how you used to do those sessions at the end of the day. Do you think that switch will actually help the networking and I guess get those idea sparks going, but then also lead into what are always top-notch networking events each night?
Yeah, I think it's going to really help. One of the number one goal that we have in our closed door roundtables is, especially going into this year and flipping it around from the morning to the evening to the late afternoon, is so that everyone can do exactly what you said, is recap from the day. There's so much content that's being discussed in the sessions throughout the day. Everyone wants that time, that hour and a half in the afternoons in that round table to really pick each other's brains and to talk about what just went on. And it's a great way to close up that day and then move on to the evening events and the stadium tours, of which we've got some amazing events taking place this year. So yeah, I mean, everything's just really flowing well. I'm really excited to just get to Miami, and it's only a couple of weeks away, which is just crazy. But yeah, it's going to be fun. Oh, and I wanted to mention to you, we're just getting ready to announce send out an email tomorrow and do an announcement that we are going to be doing the Experience Innovation Awards. It's going to be the first ever that we're doing this at SEAT, and I've partnered with a company called In Stadium. And so we are going to be doing some recognizing best practices through innovation in 5 different categories: information technology, digital media, marketing, game presentation, and sponsorship sales. So we're going to just start announcing tomorrow that the nominations are open, and this is peer driven. Because that's what SEAT is all about, is being peer driven. And so we're really excited about doing that at SEAT this year as well.
Well, terrific. I mean, that's one of the things I think a lot of people go to SEAT, myself included, is part inspiration on what you want to do, but there is a little bit of I need stuff for my swipe file throughout the year. So whether you go and you listen to Kevin Cote is going to be talking about the seed upgrades, those kind of things, or how other teams have done campaigns. There's going to be the guys from NASCAR are going to talk about their fan council and things like that. Being able to put that in your own swipe file and then go back and see what you can roll out in the season ahead or in the following 12 months. That's where I'm looking forward to checking in with people who went away saying, I want to, either in the CRM side, I want to tackle these kind of things, or from a campaign digital side where I'll be playing in that space is to see what campaigns have come out of the last 12 months and what people are looking to do over the next 12 months.
Yeah, and I've had a lot of teams comment to me that the agenda this year is so full and so great with deep content that they're really struggling with choosing what sessions they're going to go to, whether they're going to skip over into some CRM sessions, or if they're going to, sit in some digital marketing sessions and see those case study presentations, or go over to the CIO track. So, which is great. That's a great problem to have, is that we've got so much good content that people, and that's what we want. I mean, we want teams to bring, divide and conquer, right? Bring an individual from each one of those departments so that they can, each go into those sessions and then walk away and share, within their own organization of what they learned. I mean, it's just going to make their own, organizations and teams that much more powerful, as that collaboration that comes out of SEAT.
Well, that's the thing, and that's when anyone asks me, one, should I go to SEAT and who should I send? My first answer is yes, you should go. It's great collaboratively, and it's as much the networking events as the content itself, but it's also, you can't split yourself in three. So it's great for one person to go, but if you can send someone from your CRM team, send someone from your marketing, and send someone from your technology, it's really valuable for those three people in your organization who are always working in different parts of the organization, don't always get the chance to put their heads together to see how the how the different departments can operate efficiently and get the win-win-win sort of scenario. But if you can send more people to get the coverage of the conference, then you get the full value of it. I know I find myself stretched and torn trying to pick which sessions to go to. But the best result for your team overall is to send 3 people.
Absolutely, it is. And, we've got some really great registration specials that they can do that. I mean, SEAT is absolutely affordable for these organizations. And that's one of the other things, that being a peer-driven conference, we really try and focus on the budgets of these sports organizations and try to make it affordable so that they can bring multiple people and then go back and they can have those collaborative conversations. So, yeah, I mean, but before we go, I don't know how much time you have, Sean.
For you, Christine, we can have all the time. I mean, I must tell everyone who's listening right now. I mean, this is a podcast; you can listen to it at any time. But I've pretty much just given Christine a call. Can you just tell us what time it is in Phoenix, Arizona, right now?
It's 11:20 at night right now, so it's 11:20
It's
p.m.
almost midnight. That's how hardworking Christine is. One of the most hardworking people I know in sports biz, but definitely in the conference space. This is why it's a killer conference every single year. The work that Christine puts into this conference. So that alone. And you've got some. You were saying you've sold out the exhibition hall. I've been speaking to some of the sponsors on the podcast so far, the guys at Stoffel Financial and Extreme, and I've got a few more conversations coming up with a few of the others. I know they're very excited to be there. And do you want to just take, I guess, the people who are, you're talking about the sponsorship. You really do make the sponsors jump through some really big hoops to make sure that they turn up to SEAT, don't you? Do you want to just go through a little bit of that process, and so people understand? Because people go to conferences all the time and they see exhibition halls, but what? Just tell us a little bit about your process of how you select sponsors for SEAT.
Absolutely. So SEAT is really different, and we started out being different, and we're going to continue, being a very unique conference in the industry. So one of the things that I'm finding really interesting is, and especially this year, every single sponsor that we have in our exhibit hall and every sponsor that we have at SEAT is recommended by a sports team, a league, or a college, or an entertainment venue. So, which means which brings it really home from a perspective of the teams want to share their success stories with their peers in the industry. So they're bringing their sponsors, they're bringing their technology partners to me and saying, Christine, this is a partner that I've had great success with. I want to do a case study presentation. I want to share my experience, and I want my peers in the industry to be able to network with this company and build relationships with them too. So one of the things that we do is, I get on the line with, and I'll do like a WebEx, whatever it may be, but I ask every single potential sponsor to get on the computer and show me what they do. They've got to demonstrate to our steering committee, to our peers, that they've got something really cool in this industry, that they're bringing something that is going to be innovative, that they're continuing to bring something that is really unique to this industry and going to help us to move the industry forward. So one of the things we do is we want them to be championed by a sports team. But what the other thing is that we ask them to be very high level. So we want them to bring their executives, because we've got executives at the seat. We also ask them to really bring home their innovation, their case studies, to make sure that they're being thought leaders. The other thing is, we at SEAT, we actually don't let just vendors attend. They can't just pay a fee like they can to some other conferences and attend SEAT. Every single sponsor, every single company that is at SEAT is a sponsor, and that means they're engaged in this conference. And I tell my sponsors, okay, you're in the exhibit hall. Number one rule: when sessions are going on, I'm going to personally walk the exhibit hall, and I'm going to ask you to get out of your exhibit booth and go in and sit in the sessions. And what I do is I educate the sponsors is, look, you need to be in those rooms. You need to be listening to the conversations that take place and watch the case studies so that you can learn the challenges that are going on in this industry. Because these technology vendors, they need to be challenged to bring solutions to this industry. And the only way that they're going to do that is to build relationships, listen to what's going on in the sessions, and really bring some great ideas and have those collaborative discussions at SEAT. So we really challenge our sponsors to take that next step in not only being engaged in this conference, but being engaged in every step of the industry. So we're a little bit different that, and I do get a little bit of pushback by some sponsors saying, well, I just want to attend. Well, you know what? That's not what SEAT's about. SEAT's about full engagement. And we want our technology partners in this industry to be immersed in the conference and immersed in this industry with us.
And the good thing about that, especially, is if someone is there will be a steering committee member or a SEAT attendee that's vouched for them. So one of the first things you're trying to do when you're looking for a technology partner, a sponsor, or some sort of partner to work with, is you want to get that approval by your friends or colleagues. So they've already vouched, and you can seek that person out. You can, and it's that they're not hiding or anything. If someone brings in one of their partners, like you just said, they're proud because they're showing off the case study of what they've done in the last 12 months or what they've done and how it's worked for their team. So it's that really sharing, collaborative environment that works really well at SEAT.
It is, and that's the one thing that why sponsors come back is they come in and they say this was one of the best, some of the best conversations they've ever had happened at SEAT. And it's also twofold, because a lot of the sports execs and professionals that attend SEAT say it's some of the best relationships they've ever built, not just with their peers, but with technology providers, the sponsors that come in. And the cool thing is, at SEAT, and this, Sean, and I talk to this every single day, is we keep a really delicate balance at SEAT. You're going to find 1/3 of the people that attend SEAT are sponsors. 2/3 or more are going to be delegates and attendees from the industry. And that's what we found is a really great balance to so that there's not so many, salespeople running around. But, and that's the one thing I talk to the sponsors about is SEAT it's not a hard sale. It's a relationship conference. You're talking to people and you're collaborating and you're building relationships. You build relationships, you build business. And that's what, the attendees want. That's what these sports professionals want. They want relationships with their technology providers. They don't need another vendor. There's lots of vendors out there, but sponsors and companies are learning that if they become a business partner to these sports organizations, that's where it's a long-term relationship.
And tell everyone. I know. I think I have told the story a little bit on the podcast. How my first appearance at SEAT was in at 2011 in LA, where it was very much still in the CIO space. How has how has SEAT grown in the last 3 years with the growing tracks of the CRM and the digital? How has that changed the mix of both, I guess, the attendees and the spread of attendees now that you're getting to the conference, but then also, I guess, the profile that sponsors are now looking for? It must have been, I guess, a very difficult process to, take what was a very mature conference. I think this is this the 8th or 9th year of SEAT?
This is the
eighth year of SEAT, but the last 3 years has been a real change and growth in both numbers and production.
Well, absolutely. But, we actually see that's the cool thing about being a peer-driven conference is it's evolving with the industry. When you look at 3-4 years ago, the CIO role, it was purely technology.
Yep.
Over the last couple of years, it's transcended into CIOs are now having to understand more on the marketing plane, the digital marketing, the CRM and database marketing, and all of these different tool sets, so that they don't have to implement them, but they need to understand them so they're better partnering with those departments within their organizations. Well, what this has done is it's continued to evolve SEAT. So, because SEAT has built on the foundation of being a collaborative, open forum for discussions. Well, with that, we also, when we started bringing in the marketing group and those professionals, then brought in the CMOs, and now we're bringing in, it's continued, that was a couple of years ago, and now last year we started bringing in digital marketing, and then this year we have a full-blown track with, CIO, CRM, marketing and loyalty, and then digital marketing and social media. And these three different departments and organizations and the fan engagement, and the mobile technologies that are going on, this exactly is the flywheel of the organizations. And, if these groups work together and come to conferences like SEAT together and learn together and see what's going on out there, they're going to just be so much stronger. So SEAT is continuing to evolve as the industry is evolving and maturing. And I think, honestly, this industry is maturing, has matured over the last couple of years. And, one of the biggest things that we've grown in is not just those three categories, but the collegiate industry. So, Sean, it's really exciting because when 3 years ago, or 2 years ago in Boston, yep, we had 11 colleges attend. Last year in Kansas City, we had 48 colleges attend. This year, we already have 80 colleges registered this year. And we are on track to probably have about over 100 colleges attend, which is over 50. I mean, we only had 48 last year. So this is just an amazing growth. And what's really cool is the pro sports, the entertainment venues, and the collegiate sports are now looking at each other going, wow, I want to learn from them. I want to pick their brains. And so everybody's coming to SEAT, and it's just this amazing collaborative environment, across all of these different sectors. That's what's so exciting about it. I mean, the growth has been exponential. I mean, if you look at last year's numbers, we had 451 in attendance last year total. This year, we will have 700. We will need to call it a sellout at 700. But, so we're very close to that figure right now, and we're about a month away. So, the growth with SEAT is exponential, and it's all peer-driven. I mean, I have done very little marketing, but it's people talking about SEAT and people saying that this is where, this is where they want to be. They want to bring their peers, and, and they're telling their sponsors, they're telling their technology partners, and then the technology partners are telling their other customers. And which is just, it's so fun to see this thing just grow, and we're growing it together, you and me. I mean, we've been partnered now for several years, and we've seen just a huge growth in this industry.
Well, one of the reasons people find out about it and feel FOMO, fear of missing out, is the terrific events that you put on each year. So, I mean, you can go back through my Instagram feed. You'll see pictures of a sunset at Fenway in 2002. A great event at Markley. In Boston, shots at Kaufman Field, and my son Reese taking shots at the Kansas City Chiefs. So the events themselves really do pave the way. Everyone raves about the events. Do you want to give us a little bit of hint? We don't have any spoiler alerts, but what have you got planned for this year in Miami?
We've got some really fun events planned. So Monday night, we are going to the Miami Marlins. And gosh, there's so many cool things. But I'm just going to tell you one little thing that's going on with Miami Marlins, and it gives you a tip about how the evening's going to go. So one of the sponsors is actually putting together, and it's Maru Networks, is hosting a whiskey and Wi-Fi. A whiskey tasting and Wi-Fi at the Miami Marlins. Bradford Networks is doing something very special. And so we've got a lot of really cool sponsors that are doing things that are very unique to their venue. We're having food that is only served at the Miami Marlins. Different concessions, so the food is going to be unique, the environment's going to be unique, the networking opportunities are going to be unique, and the we've got whiskey tasting, wine tasting, all of these different fun things going on. And then Tuesday evening, we're at the Sun Life Stadium at Miami Dolphins, and the Miami Dolphins are putting together quite a spectacular. They're calling it, and we're just getting ready to do a release on this. It's called the Immersive Technology Experience at the Miami Dolphins. And we're going to be experiencing everything from geofencing to iBeacon to you're going to be scanning in. We've got RFID tags on our badges this year. There's going to be data captured, and then they're going to take that data and they're going to demonstrate how to monetize that data. That you would normally be a fan walking into that stadium, and every step of the way, you're going to be experiencing technology and capturing data and these personalized messages. It's going to be so exciting and so fun, and things that we have not yet done at SEAT yet.
Oh, that's terrific. I mean, that's definitely part of the appeal that I find when we, love it, checking out the stadiums. And I do, I remember last year at KC, both Todd Cathlish and Kevin Naylor geeking out at what the Wi-Fi was doing and stuff like that. But you get to see the tech, you get down into the doer mode, you get to see how things are work and what you can do. And again, you can come back and take things back for your stadium, for your team, and those kind of things, as well as having an absolute ball, all the entertainment and things like that. So I for one am looking forward to Miami. I'm looking forward to being able to hit the dance floor properly. Unfortunately, wasn't able to do it last year with the moon boot, so I won't have the troubles going through customs as I did last year. Touch wood, I don't injure myself in the next 6 weeks or so. Don't forget. SEAT 2014. Oh, one more thing. I did get an email. You've still got one big sponsor announcement. Did you want to tell everyone about it on the podcast?
Yes, I would love to. So a very fun announcement is Samsung is going to be sponsoring SEAT 2014 in Miami this year. And why this is so important is Samsung is bringing a tremendous amount of technology, video boards and digital signage and screens and just all kinds of amazing technology that they are rolling out. But the coolest thing about this whole thing is that SEAT is the first sports conference that Samsung in the history of of their company has ever sponsored. So we are the first, and they are very excited about sponsoring SEAT and about making this their debut into sports and entertainment in a big way. Very, very exciting, and thank you so much for letting me share that on your podcast.
Oh, not a problem. They've got a fanboy in me. I've got my phone's a Samsung, so I leapt from the the Apple to the dark side that is Android. But I love using my Samsung S3, so it's not a paid endorsement there, but that's the phone that I use. So I look forward to catching up with them and seeing what new tech they come out with, especially in the wearable space and all the different mobile and tablets that that they offer that you can use from all spectrums of the sports digital and the sports technology side of things. So really looking forward to SEAT in Miami. Don't forget, you can go to sportsgeekhq.com/SEAT 2014. It'll send you straight to the site. There'll be links in the show notes for all the details. I'm looking forward to seeing a fair few listeners at SEAT, as well as a fair few people who've actually been on the podcast who will actually be on several panels. So looking forward to Christine. I'll let you go because it's almost midnight in Phoenix, but we will definitely chat soon.
Sounds great.
Sign
Thank
up
you
for
so much,
Sports
Sean.
Geek
Have a
News
great
at
day.
sportsgeekhq.com/sign up now.
Thanks again to Christine Stoffel there for taking my call at 11:30 at night, no less. One of the hardest working people in sports biz, and for those of you who have attended SEAT conference before, you know why. It's absolutely top-notch conference, both from an attendee, speakers, sponsors point of view, absolutely top-notch. Looking forward to it. So don't forget, sportsgeekhq.com/SEAT 2014 will take you directly there. And if you have not registered yet, I strongly suggest you do. There's not that many spaces available, and you really don't want to miss out. One of the things she did announce there, it has been launched, the In-Stadium Experience Awards. If I get that right, In-Stadium Experience Innovation Awards. The nomination process has been open, so I strongly suggest if you've done a campaign or anything in the different award categories, IT, digital media, marketing, game presentation, sponsorship, please make a nomination. Should be some really great innovation and some great nominations, expecting some really good stuff from the SEAT network. The links will be in the show notes, sportsgeekhq.com/49. And again, if I can sort of reiterate the call I've made in previous podcasts, I would love to profile your content and your campaigns at SEAT and putting together a presentation around the best content and campaigns around the world. So please send me in an email, sean@sportsgeekhq.com. Tell me what you've been working on the last 12 months. Tell me what your fans have loved and what's driven traffic for your teams. Looking at it across a couple of different categories, video, obviously, looking at long-form articles, graphic campaigns and infographics because it's a really growing space. How have you used photos and galleries and what kind of things have worked really well? Also in that social media specific stuff, so specific campaigns that have worked for Facebook or Twitter, Instagram and the like, anything in that social space. And then, as I do love audio, I'm going to have that as a category. Are you podcasting? Are you using things like SoundCloud, like the guys at Richard Clark at Arsenal? As well as specific campaigns. Have you done a data acquisition campaign that's worked well, or a sponsor campaign that's worked well, or any particular crowdsourcing campaigns? So I'm really looking for any of that. Simply send me an email or even flick me a tweet at Sean Callanan. Currently pulling together some content. Had some really great nominations. Philip Dorr from NASCAR sent me through a couple of campaigns they've been doing. I strongly suggest you check out their NASCAR with Dad campaign they're currently running. He's pulled in over 36,000 entries so far and creating some great curated content using Instagram. So any campaigns like that, please send them through to me. I'm really looking forward to profiling some really killer content and campaigns at Seat. So next up is one part of our Seat sponsor series. In this case, the sponsor is Mobility. Rather than talking to the guys at Mobility, and you can talk to Chris, you'll be seeing Christos Karmas at Seat. He's speaking at Seat on one of the panels, and they'll obviously have a booth there. But I'm really pleased that they were able to get me an interview with Ryan Jordan from Churchill Downs to talk about their DAS rollout for the Kentucky Derby. So this is my chat with Ryan Jordan, General Manager of the Kentucky Derby, on the Sports Geek Podcast.
Seat 2014 Sponsor Series. See you in Miami in July.
I'm very happy to welcome General Manager of Churchill Downs, Ryan Jordan, to the Sports Geek Podcast. Welcome, Ryan.
Thanks for having me.
It's actually good. I'm actually from Melbourne, and every time I have to explain some of the sporting events in Melbourne, Australia, I always mention that we have the Melbourne Cup, and to explain it to Americans, it's the Kentucky Derby in Australia. So Churchill Downs, a famous track in the US. You would be solving the similar problems that they are in sports stadiums around the world, around that fan experience. And when you get big crowds, people can't get on and use their cell phones and their mobiles. What was the problem and the solution that you were trying to look for prior to trying to solve this thing?
Well, sure. Well, with everything with the Kentucky Derby, we are every single year looking for ways to constantly improve the fan experience. You know, we had this year for the Kentucky Derby, right at about 165,000 people at the track for Derby Day. So we're dealing with large crowds, lots of people at a racetrack at a site that can get pretty crowded. So you end up with a lot of people, and talking about mobile technology, a lot of people wanting to use their phones, both to make phone calls, but also to share the experiences they're having at the track. The Kentucky Derby, much like the Melbourne Cup, is a bucket list event. It's a once-in-a-lifetime event where people are making memories, and they want to share those memories and experiences with their friends in real time with social media networks and other avenues. So for us, we were kind of handcuffed because we couldn't allow guests to share that information because there were so many people in that small space or in that one location that the current existing infrastructure that the carriers, cellular carriers in the area had, wasn't able to handle that much bandwidth at one time. So for our venue, we had to look at creating an in-venue system, something that could handle all that bandwidth, because with 165,000 people sharing pictures and text messages and phone calls at once, it can use a lot of data. So we really wanted to do that because that's what fans expect in today's day and age. They expect to remain connected to their networks, to talk to their friends at all times, and they want to tell friends about the great experiences they're having. So for us, it meant finding a way to improve our network, and we looked at a couple different solutions. We started talking to individual carriers, about ways to come into Churchill Downs, a facility that's been around since 1875, and put in a network that would allow our fans and our customers to communicate with their friends. Ultimately, we ended up going with company Mobility because it really afforded us the opportunity to allow all of our fans, regardless of what network they might be on, to take advantage of the distributed antenna system and to stay connected with their friends and share all those moments as they're happening. This year, as California Chrome is winning the Kentucky Derby, every fan who was on a carrier that was on our distributed antenna system, they were tweeting and they were posting pictures to Facebook, and they were sending text messages letting their friends know they were there and how exciting it was. So it really added to the experience. Made it that much more special for all the people that were there because they could brag and tell their friends, where they were and what they were doing when California Chrome won the Kentucky Derby.
And so the thing is, that allows, because with stadiums and stands and facilities that block the coverage, putting those distributed antennas throughout the course allows that coverage no matter where they are, whether they're in the grandstand or whether in the parking lot or just by the track.
Yeah, it's, for our location, our racetrack, we've got right at about 100, just under 150 acres. We've got 1.6 million square feet of facility under roof. So it's really spread out, and there's a lot of concrete, there's a lot of steel, there's a lot of walls that are in between our different grandstands and our seating sections. So just coming in and putting up, one antenna like you might see on a highway or in a, out in the general area is not going to hit all those fans. It takes, many more antennas, and they need to be spread out throughout the facility, both indoor and outdoor, in a discrete installation so that when a fan is coming to experience day at the races, they aren't overwhelmed with seeing antennas everywhere. Ideally, the antennas kind of blend in with the environment. And we were able to do that, partnering with Mobility, having a very discrete installation so that when you just come out and then you want to enjoy a day at the races, the first thing you see is the twin fires and the racetrack and the great racing that's going on. You don't look around and see a ton of antennas. They're kind of hidden within the installation.
Well, there's 253, so you must have done a pretty good job of hiding them and putting them around the venue, having that many antennas around.
That's right.
One of the questions, so you've been at Churchill Downs since 2009, and we'll be talking and catching up with the guys at Mobility at the C conference in Miami, and the conversation at the C conference over the last couple of years has been, how do we get solutions like DAS solutions into venues, whether they be a racetrack or a sports stadium, and how do we justify it? And a lot of that's come from the team point of view. But as a venue, did it just start growing each year as a necessity? It's something that you have to have, and the cost, the equation of return on investment and those kind of things is still there. But it would just start becoming a necessity for your fans to be a venue that allows people to share, because the racetrack, and I'm sure Kentucky Derby is exactly the same as the Melbourne Cup. You're right, it's a bucket list. I've been to a Melbourne Cup, and when they're doing the national anthem before the race, the hairs in the back of the neck stand up. But you want to be able to share that content and take that photo that's where you are. How has that changed from your time at Churchill Downs from 2009 to now? Now that you've got the DAS in there, did you see a real big uplift in the amount of content that got shared this year?
We did. I mean, I think we had a couple carriers on the system this year. I think one of the carriers put out some information that there was actually record data usage for a sporting event was actually recorded at this year's Kentucky Derby. I think you kind of hit on it. It's really almost become an expectation of fans these days. A few years ago, back even when I started at Churchill Downs 5 years ago, people were almost a little more accepting when they would go to an event that had a large crowd. It was almost expected that that your phone wasn't going to work and you weren't going to be able to stay connected, and people kind of knew that. Now, I think with the prevalence of smartphones and how much more people are using them, and the different types of applications and the tools and what they're used for, people expect to stay connected to them because it's more than just making a phone call. It's staying connected, it's staying up to date, it's sharing experiences that are happening. So being able to meet that expectation for our fans and for our customers was important, because we don't want people to come out to the Kentucky Derby for a day and lose that connection. That's a reason. It's a reason not to come, or it's another thing, and something you could point out that says, well, everything was great except. We're trying to make sure that everything we do is the best that it can possibly be, and making sure that our fans are connected to their networks and being able to use their smartphone devices. In today's technology environment was one of the most important things we were looking at. Being able to find someone like Mobility to come in and do it for us and do a great job as they did is really exciting to see it now that this year's Derby is coming on.
And the thing is that what it now allows you to sort of pitch the Kentucky Derby to another generation. So you're reaching that mobile generation. That's how they're finding out about it. They're finding about the social event. So the motivation for people going to the Kentucky Derby, 15 years ago, they may have been, a punter and betting and follow the horses. Whereas as it moves to a social event, people have different reasons, and it's a really great way to amplify that event, but tell that next generation that it is the place to be seen. I'm gonna buy the new suit and go to the races and hang out in the different social areas. And I know it happens at the Melbourne Cup. People go along and they hardly even see a horse. But it's the whole entertainment prospect. So it's sort of not just a sporting event, but it's a whole entertainment package.
That's right. I mean, we've got a great fan base for the Kentucky Derby and for races at Churchill Downs, but we're always cognizant of being able to attract a new fan base to our races. And the millennials, they're using phones differently than the generations before them have been. There's different things to do on the phones, on their networks, and how they're staying connected. So, today it allows us for people to stay connected and to share their memories. But a couple of years from now, 5-10 years from now, that might there's going to be other things they're doing on the phones. We want to make sure we're well positioned to talk to that group.
Well, that's the thing. Even the last 5 years, the amount of data that people are sharing and using on their mobile phones is almost increasing or doubling every year or every 18 months. So, you've got to stay in front of this challenge. In the whole process. So it's a constant evolving thing for venues as more devices are always connected and always, sending out their location and those kind of things. It's going to put more strain on these networks. So it's one thing that you've just got to be in front of, see the benefits of, and be constantly looking at and tweaking.
Absolutely. Yeah, thinking about it, how we'll use it today, but also, how can this benefit Churchill Downs and how can it benefit the racing fan of tomorrow?
Well, Ryan, thank you very much for chatting on the podcast. Unfortunately, we won't see you at SEAT, but we will see the guys at Mobility and learn a little bit more about their DAS solutions. But thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
You are certainly welcome. Thanks for having me.
Need help with your content? Book in for a content brainstorming session with Sports Geek now. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/work.
Thanks again to Ryan Jordan from Churchill Downs, but a big thanks to Mobility, especially Christos Karmas. He'll be keynoting at SEAT. And as Christine said earlier, the great thing about SEAT from a sponsor point of view is that they'll be there, they'll be at the networking events, but you really get to know them and they'll start understanding the problem. So they'll be definitely talking about the Wi-Fi and the DAS rollouts impacting the sports experience, especially around things like the Kentucky Derby. So thanks again to Mobility there. That wraps up this episode of the Sports Geek podcast. Like I said earlier, please, if you are going to SEAT, please share this podcast with your friends and colleagues who are attending SEAT. Get connected before turning up to SEAT. I think that's the best advice from a point of view of going to conferences and what you want to get out of it. Networking is one of the key features of SEAT, and getting to know both your colleagues in the space and colleagues in different segments. So it's great to have the digital guys mixing with the CRM and the IT guys. So that clock is my reminder to wrap up this episode and get out. So you guys, if you are running or if you're in the gym, you're probably a little bit stuffed right now because I might have gone on a little bit long. So this is episode 49. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/49 to get all the show notes and all the links to this episode. And don't forget, you can check out all the episodes in the archive there. Plenty, as I said earlier, plenty of people who are speaking at SEAT have been previous guests, so catch up with them earlier. And this week's Sounds of the Game, as we're going into the World Cup, I've grabbed one of the snippets of audio from the Sports Geek trip at watching the game at Real Madrid. Lucky enough to have the video recorder active when Cristiano Ronaldo scored, and this is what you would hear at a Real Madrid game, so we can only imagine what it will sound like in Brazil as World Cup kicks off this weekend in Brazil. absolutely electric when that happened in Bernabeu, the Real Madrid game. Real privilege to see Cristiano Ronaldo in action, and looking forward to watching him in action for Portugal in the World Cup. As I said, can only imagine. I've got a few people on the ground in Brazil, so looking forward to getting some sounds of the game from Brazil over the coming weeks. Closing 2 cents. This one goes out to Josh Bootsma, Carlton player, recently sacked for social media misuse. If you're an athlete and they're using social media, please keep your pants on.
Please leave a review on iTunes. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/iTunes. Find all Sports Geek podcasts at sportsgeekhq.com/SGP. Want to maximize returns from your digital team? Contact Sports Geek about content and commercialization workshop. Thanks for listening to the Sports Geek Podcast.